All right, folks, here we are for another session of Off the Grid. Wanted to welcome our next guest. He's an MC who calls Central California home. In other circles, though, he is known as the prominent Chef Robert Ortiz III. Welcome to Raspy Rob. Hey, brother, thank you for doing this session with me. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. I told you, man, when I was talking to MC Wicks, he had mentioned that song that you had did, Fresno's Worst, and I was just very intrigued with the title. I said, man, I gotta check this dude out, and I fell in love with the song, man. I thought it was just the coolest track, and just man, yeah. So I reached out, man, and I'm glad we got to do this session, man. So awesome. Well,
Yeah, it's
hey,
it's one of those tracks, like in a place where everybody wants to be the best.
hmm?
I just at that moment when I was feeling it, I just wanted to be the worst. You know what I mean? So Fresno's worst.
Yeah, hey, I thought that was a clever track, man. I mean, the title alone got me to look into the song, and it's a super dope song. But hey, so with that, I mean, you obviously make music. So let's start with your background, man. Tell me where you were born, and tell me where exactly in California you're at, and how long you've been making music.
Yeah, so I was born in a beautiful place called Central California, Fresno, California,
Yeah.
where the palm trees stand up straight and the money don't come straight, but it gets there some days. The money will get there, but yeah, just born and raised in Central California, the east side of Fresno. I basically lived all over the east side. So if you're familiar with Fresno, you'll know about like streets like San Pablo and Calaveras and Glen and Lewis and Bond and all those streets. If you're familiar, I grew up on the east, man.
Okay. Right on, man. And how long have you been doing music?
Well, you mean it's been an off and on relationship for probably about 15 years now, 16 years of just making music and then shying away from it and then going back to it. So it's like a brutal relationship, you know. It's like you love it, but sometimes you got to go and you just want to go back, and it's just one of those things. But roughly about 16 years.
Man, I love it, man. And so let's take it all the way back, man. What was your first exposure to music? What were your parents listening to?
Oh man, so as a kid, like my parents had this very extensive record collection. My dad would every paycheck he would go and buy one or two, sometimes three, depending on how good the price was of records. And these are all the way like we're talking like the Mary Jane Girls, the Gap Band, the
Man.
Isley Brothers. All those classic, what we consider oldies now. Back then, it was the generation, but I grew
Yeah.
up on all that. So my childhood, my father was in the Marine Corps, so
Oh, wow.
every Sunday, yeah, every Sunday we had to get up out of bed and scrub the whole house top to bottom. So on Sundays, when you're hearing the Mary Jane Girls, or you're hearing, the Gap Band, or you're hearing, some kind of music playing at 9 a.m., 8 a.m., you knew what time it was. That means it's
It's
time to
time to
get the
work.
get the GI party going.
Oh, crazy. Hey, did you move around a lot, or where were you at?
No,
Was
I mean my brother was stationed here. Well, I mean a little in Hawaii, but a little here. But we were mostly just here. We stayed here in Central California while my dad was out there working.
at some point you were introduced to rap, and so do you remember your first experience with rap music?
Yeah, my brother, man, my older brother, Mike, we call him Duke. He uh he used to like do home recordings for his friends, and one of his friends was Mackie Lokes. And again, if you're familiar with the Fresno scene, Mackie Lokes is an old school name, old dude, old school dude
Yeah.
who used to come to my brother's house. And I remember my brother having like a reel to reel. And that was like the first time I was ever exposed to music like that, where I was like, what is this? Like,
Yeah.
this looks like a science project, you know what I mean? So, but you used to have, the reel to reel and the DAT and, some keyboard setup and a little drum machine that he probably got like at a thrift store or something. But that was
Man,
like my real first introduction to rap, or, basically music, or, putting music together.
man, that's wild, man. And so that should have opened the doors and introduced you to everybody who was making music on the commercial scene. Did you have any favorites when you were growing up on who you like to listen to?
Uh, you know, it's all over the place, man, because like I'm in love with all types of genres of music. So
Okay.
like, of course the old classic oldies and things like that. That's where my heart is, of course, but I love jazz. But my first real experience to rap was probably in the actually the seventh grade,
Okay.
and one of my good friends, who we're still friends to this day, he was sitting next to me, and he had a set of headphones on, and one of those old CD Walkman type of deals, and he's like, "You ever heard of Brother Lynch Hung?" And I was like,
Oh, nice.
"No." I was like, "I don't know what that is." So then he let me listen to his headphones for a little bit, and he had a whole CD case of like Brother Lynch, X-rated, Mr.
Oh,
Doc,
yeah.
SIBO, like
Oh,
all that. So he opened that door up for me. Shout out to my boy Rene Gongora. He opened that door up for me, and it just took off from there. So then I started listening to like Mac Dre, and actually last night
yes.
I'm on the recovery side right now because I was out last night. I went to not Andre Nicotina was here in Fresno last night.
Oh,
So I
dang.
got to see him. RBL Posse opened up for him. So it
Oh
was
my
real cool
gosh.
shit. I mean, again, if you're an old head and you like that kind of music, you know
Oh
exactly
man,
what I'm
what a
talking
great
about. So
show.
yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. You fell in love with rap after that. And do you remember what motivated you to pick up a pencil and just start writing raps? What was,
Honestly, I think it was mostly just my environment. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
like I said, my brother was rapping and he was doing his little thing. It was nothing major, just recording on tracks at home and recording his friends and doing that. But it was kind of the things that were going on around me.
Okay.
Watching the influence of, and at that time it was drugs and alcohol and watching the streets kind of fall apart and watching people beg and watching people struggle and it was almost like that beautiful struggle for me that I had to pick up a pen to write about it and then
Okay.
kind of put into words and kind of a storytelling of everything that was going on around me, what I was
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that later in the interview, but you brought it up now. Is that you are an outstanding storyteller, and so that's why I had noticed that when you were doing it in Fresno's Worst, and just it was very vivid. All the way that you laced the track, I was like, man, very vivid, and I could
Appreciate
see like the images that you were trying to create, and so I'm sure that probably is a reflection of your cooking style too. But just man, very detail oriented, and I really enjoyed the storytelling aspect. I could tell you're influenced by Bay Area rap, and I love that sound. I'm a Cali dude too, so man, props to you for that. That's dope.
that. I appreciate that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey man, let's hear the story real quick on the background of your name. So, did you give it to yourself? Did someone give it to you? What's the story, and why you decided to use it as your MC name?
Yeah, so I've always had a raspy voice, kind of a hoarse voice, since I was born this way, I feel like it's God's sick joke, or maybe God's giving me a little more talent, like the distinguish of the voice. But yeah, so I've always had like a hoarse voice. And when I first started rapping, my first name was Relio, RLIO, which
Oh,
my graffiti name was Oiler, OILR.
sick.
So I just spun it backwards, and then I used to use it as real life in order. So I used to call myself Relio. That was like one of the first rap names I kind of started with,
Okay.
and I did a couple of tracks with that. And one day, me and my boy were writing, some music together, and he said, "You ever thought about the name Raspy Rob?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Bro, that sounds hard. You know what I mean? You're raspy, you're Rob. That's Raspy Rob, man." And at first, I was just kind of like, it's a little cheesy for me, man. I don't know if I like this. But after writing it down and kind of playing with it, and the homies calling me Raspy, and after like it kind of stuck with me. So I was like, hey, I kind of like this name. So that's kind of where the name started. Shout out to my boy Johnny, shot me the name, and we just ran with it.
Yeah, I do like it, man. Very catchy too, as well, man. All that stuff, man. Just the way, I don't know, your name selection, your names for tracks, man, all catchy to me, man. So
Yeah.
that was good, man. I'm glad that it stuck. Well, hey, man, I know Fresno. I didn't grow up in Fresno, but Cali in general, I'm familiar with the area. It's quite diverse. And so your journey in terms of you becoming a rapper and just making music, was the community very accepting, or was it difficult to break in the scene? What do
Yeah,
you?
when I was first starting off, there was a lot of I want to say favoritism, but kind of like favoritism. Like if you didn't know a certain producer, or if you weren't friends with a certain producer, you weren't getting no good tracks. And if you did have a good producer, they were trying to charge you an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah,
And this is, when I started getting into this, is before the internet, of course, was buzzing, but this is before people really started connecting with music. And
yeah,
nowadays, uh, a lot of producers are sending MCs music and, hey, write
yeah,
to this. And back then a lot of it was kind of like sheltered and like maybe, like let me send you the low quality beats first, and if you don't like those, then we'll talk about maybe selling you these high quality beats.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh,
it was kind of like the Wild West when I first started getting into it.
okay.
But after, the years started getting in, and, kind of meeting people, and of course, establishing relationships with people, everybody's been really accepting of it. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
everybody will accept you, especially in Fresno. Everybody knows everybody. It's like the biggest, smallest town in the world. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
everybody knows each other. Everybody, mingles. And if you're part of the music scene, then everybody will fuck with you, and they'll love you. They'll embrace you as long as you give the love back.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what it seems like, man. And I've known Wix for a number of years now, man. It just seems like the scene is pretty nice out in Fresno, and then everybody is together and united, man. So I like it. It's definitely different from when we were growing up, man. When, yeah, you had to earn some stripes in a
Oh
different way.
yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, cool, man. Hey, man. So you mentioned that you were at a Andre Nicotina show. RBX Posse opened up. Man, what else are you listening to these days? Are you listening still to the old Bay Area stuff,
Oh
or
man, I love the Bay Area, man. I love music in general, or just Central California, especially. Like we got cats like Fashawn,
yep,
um, Planet Asia, of course. That's the
yes,
god. That's the god of gods. But there's just so many people around here that like it's crazy, man. But yeah, I'm still everything's in my category. It's all there.
yeah. Hey, outside of rap music, what do you like?
Like music wise or
Yeah,
just.
you mentioned jazz. Anything else?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, I'm that Coltrane and Davis and Miles Davis and all that. I gotta have that in my repertoire. There's some days where I'm on some country kicks and I'm listening to a little bit of country,
Oh wow,
because a lot of people don't realize that, but country is a big storytelling. It's a lot of storytelling,
that's
and
the
that's a
thing.
huge influence of my writing. You know what I mean? Like if you can tell a story in a song, and country does it all the time. You know what I mean? People just don't catch it because they're just like,
Yeah,
oh, that's country music. I'm not
yeah.
listening to that.
Hey, that's an interesting perspective. I've never heard that, but you are absolutely right, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm all over the board. I love the White Stripes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can't even. I'm drawing blanks right now, but there's just so much music. If I go through my phone, I
Sure.
mean, my Spotify is on fire.
Well,
So if you look up the Raspy Rob Spotify, you'll see all the music that I listen to.
hey man, so hey, you mentioned that you did a little bit of graffiti. Did you try anything else? Did you produce or did you dance? Any other elements of hip hop?
I mean, I still get my pop lock on every now and again if I need to, but no, yeah. I mean, we did a little graffiti, and it was just, kind of that era. I loved doing labels and kind of like stickums and posters and just kind of those quick aesthetics. But I
Yeah,
felt like you could take a little bit more time with those aesthetics and then get them up on a wall. So
yeah,
like, the wheat pasting and things like that. I love that kind of art.
uh,
But yeah, so of course, painting trains and things like that,
yeah.
running through the train yard, getting chased by bums, and the Vandal
No,
Squad and all
no
that.
no kidding, huh? That happened a couple times.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that must have been crazy, dude.
Oh man, it was crazy.
Man,
Because when
hey
you
man,
when you go into these abandoned buildings, these homeless people that are sleeping in them, they feel like you're trespassing, even though they're the ones trespassing. They feel like you're trespassing on them because that's their home. So when you're
holy
in there
cow,
to paint, they're like, "Hey, you're writing in my house, man. What are you doing?"
my God, that
But
must have been,
back in those days, it was a golden era. So we'd have a couple of 40s with us, or
yeah.
sometimes we'd even take a box of pizza up to the lineup to the yard, and we'd just be sitting there with some beer, pizza, and just painting. And the homeless people come along, like, "Hey man, you want a beer? You want some pizza? Here, chill out, man. We good. We good. We're gonna
Yeah,
paint here for a little while."
that's a perfect night right there, I
Oh
think.
yeah, oh yeah.
Well, cool, man. Hey, as I was preparing for this interview, man, Wix told me to ask you about Fresno Uncensored, dude. What,
Damn,
what
damn.
do you mean by that?
That's a golden video, man. If you if you're from Fresno and you've seen the Fresno Uncensored, that's the golden video, man. That was
Is
like
that is that online or no?
you could probably find it. I mean, it was one of those like lost tapes essentially. Like the city banned that. They were like, no,
Oh,
that needs to go away right now, because it
is
was
it?
like a in-depth video of all things Fresno, of the streets.
Oh
Dudes. I
wow.
think I know, me and Wick talked about this before, but one of his favorite scenes one of my favorite scenes is where the dude has like a bazooka. This dude comes out the back with like a army hard hat or army helmet, and this dude has
Okay.
like a bazooka, and it's like, where do you get this kind of arms from? You know what I mean? Like, where do you get this kind of weapon from? But
Holy
yeah,
cow.
Fresno Censored, man, that was the golden tape, man. A lot of people ran through that one.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of sad to say, but it took a lot of people down too, because after the feds hit that tape and started collecting names, man, a lot of people fell with that video. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I'll
so
have to see.
it was real Fresno shit, man. It was real Fresno shit.
I'll have to look it up, man.
Yeah,
Well,
man. Actually, that makes me want to go back and look it up now. I'm gonna have to go track that down, see if I still have that in my suitcase somewhere.
hey man, shout out to MC Wicks who introduced me to your music. Again, he told me well, he had mentioned your songs and I looked into it. And then he had told me too, also, I think maybe it might have been an interview, how he met you. I think you at a bar that he was performing at, and then you had just started talking about it, and then
No, actually, it was crazy. I was out having a day drink, you know what I mean? So I'm out having a day drink with one of the homies. And I've seen Wicks around town before, and
yeah.
I've introduced myself a couple of times, and never Raspy Rob, but I was just like, hey, what's up? I'm Rob. I fuck with your music, Wicks. Good to meet you in person.
Yeah.
I seen him at a couple of like Grizzly Fest and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And one day I'm just out having a day drink, and I seen him there. And I'm like, what's up, Wicks? I was like, let me get you a beer, so let me come here. So he comes over and he's like looking at me like, I met you before, but what's your name again? So I was like, I'm Rob, and I was like, Raspy Rob, and he was like,
Yeah.
what? He was like, bro, because when I first made Fresno's Worst, I
Yeah.
didn't put it on YouTube or nothing. I put it straight to a SoundCloud, and
Yeah.
and it would just by itself, no other music with it, and just left it there to basically rot.
Dude.
And Wix took that video to YouTube, put some visual behind it, which is just some pictures and stuff, but put some visual behind it. And now that's why it's on YouTube. So shout out to Wix. And this is before we even met. And he told me all the time that
Yeah.
like he's like, bro, I'd come home from school and I would fucking put that on and I would listen to it. And he's like, and I'd be writing my stuff and I'm just, soaking up game from basically the streets of Fresno, like what's on the street.
Yeah, that's exactly what he had mentioned too. Was that when you finally mentioned Raspy Rob, he was shocked because he grew up to your music, and so I thought
Yeah.
that was just the coolest story, man. And eventually, you guys went on to do music together. I think as a result of that introduction, man. And so that first song I wanted to talk about that you guys did together was "It's Yours."
Oh
And
yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
talking about the bougie lifestyle and
Yeah.
lifestyles of the rich song that came out about a couple years ago with Spider. But man,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah. Shout out to Spider Man. Killed that
yeah,
beat. Killed that.
is he a Fresno producer too?
He's from the Bay Area. I believe, from Frisco, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he's from the Bay Area.
Yeah, hey, you want to tell me how that song went down and how that came
Man,
about? And
that's such a cool story too, man. Because Wicks had a show out there in the Bay. I think it was
okay,
Oakland. Yes, he had a show out in Oakland. So, we wanted to drive up with them. We got the homies together and we're like, hey, we'll come. We'll be your security. We'll be your merch table. We'll be, anything you want us to be essentially, but we're gonna be there to support you. We didn't
oh
want to send we didn't want to send the boy out to the Bay kind of by himself. And even though, he has folks out there and he has his people out there, we
yeah,
still wanted to be there, to help him out and anything we can do to kind of, make him comfortable.
that's
So we
awesome.
took a trip out there. Shout out to my boy Rob Vieira. He drove us out there. We took a trip to the Bay and we pretty much like went to do a Wix show along with doing a food crawl. So we had to do a food crawl at the same time, which was kind of cool.
Yeah,
So we went and hit all these different places up, had lunch, drink, and then he took me over to Spider's house, and Spider was like, "Hey, we got this beat lined up. Wix has already wrote some shit to it. If you want to get on this, here's the beat." So I sat there and I listened to it for about, one or two plays back and forth. And I was just like, you know what? Let's get this. Started
cool.
writing to it and we got it in right there. Right in the
That
Bay
is
Area. Yeah.
awesome. Hey man, and again, man, I told you, man, you're a great storyteller. I'm a beast with a touch of class. Head honcho lone wolf, so I've been the head of my pack. Lobster tails with the claws attached. Man,
Yep.
I love that verse, man. That was really cool.
And the crazy, I threw the Kobe hot links right
Oh,
where famous.
right,
I threw
right.
that line. But we went to a farmer's market that day. We just happened to walk through there. We was like I said, was eating lunch or whatever. We just walked to a farmer's market. and we found a spot that was selling hot dogs, but they had Kobe beef hot dogs
Oh
or
shit.
hot links. So my boy Rob Vieira, he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna pick a couple of these up, and then when we're done through this, and we're gonna go back to the beach. I'm gonna bring my burner out, and we're gonna fucking cook hot dogs right there on the beach and shit." And that's exactly what we did. So
Oh
we,
man.
yeah, got some beers, chilled out on the beach, made some hot links. It was cool. It was a cool experience, man.
Oh, very
Shout out to
cool, man.
Spider. Shout out to Wicks for that one, man. That was a good shot.
Yeah, man. That's a show. I mean, he's awesome live, man. So I'm sure the show was a good time.
Oh yeah, it was a really good time, man.
Yeah, and then you guys went on to record another track. I think this might have been even earlier. It was the Hector Ramon track, which I
Oh
thought
man.
was super
Yeah, I
cool.
forgot about that one too. That was a good one too, man.
Yeah, you said at the end, I seen him threaten a man to death. I seen it. If he hits you with his signature slap, there's nothing you can do except to thank him. And man, what a fun track, man. Dude's super creative, and I think you two make a great combo on songs, man. I like the way your voices contrast.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the Hector Ramon project too. Just we were sitting in the studio, and I told him like, "Hey, let me get an interlude in this, or let me get an intro." And he's like, "Yeah, I got you." So towards the end of that track, I just wrote right there, I just boo boo boo, like basically the epitome of Hector Ramon. You know who he is, and the torta
Yeah,
hand slap to the face and all that good shit.
yeah, I thought it kind of reminded me about the Wu Tang Clan song. I don't know, it might have been chess boxing, where I'll fucking no fuck
Oh
you.
yeah.
Yeah, so I had that feel, but I thought that was super funny, man. And so, yeah, and then you guys did one that you got an official video, which is Evil Side, and that was from his Silvertooth Babies album again in 2021. And so, what was the story? Was that the first song that y'all did together?
Yeah, that was the first song. So
Yeah.
again, shout out to Ocho Studios. They invited me up to Ocho Studio. And of course, Wix, and I'm the type of writer, like it's hard for me to just write on the spot. I
Oh,
can, but it's
okay.
hard for me to write on the spot. Like I need to listen to the music a little bit. I need to sit down, think about some
Mhm.
bars. So he gave me like the track for like a week, and he was like, "Here, just start writing to it." I know you're
Okay.
because he knew about my writing style. So he's like, "Here, write to it. When you're ready, I'm gonna be Saturday at Ultra Studios. Pull up. We're gonna get this one in." And I think
Nice.
that was our very first track together. And yeah, I went in there and knocked that one out too, man. And that was like from the heart too, because when I was writing Evil Side, again, it's all about the influence around me, things that I've seen around me growing up. So I
Yeah.
took all of that influence and put it into that song, the writing, and the way it was, that's the way the vision was at that time.
Yeah, again, I thought that was a strong picture, man. Again, you just drew it, and it was very graphic to me what you were writing about. See where I'm from, Valley of the Slums. Streets been hot, just like the surface of the sun. Tattoos on his face. Now we packing out a gun. Had to make a couple moves, so he had to leave behind the sun, man. Oh man, dude, I was like, fuck, dude. Yeah, I
Double
mean,
entendre right there, man. Double entendre.
yeah,
Sun and sun.
yeah. Yeah, I just felt it, man. I could see like the hard living, poverty, just around the area and story you were trying to tell. It was yeah, I felt it, man. And so I'm glad you get the time to write, man. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm the same way too, man. Like I need to go sit aside and just need to concentrate, but I can do it on the spot too as well. But man, it just you come up with some better product if you have that time to focus. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like when I like to write, I like to think of everything that's in my mind without distractions.
Yeah.
And even sometimes when I'm writing, I'll turn the TV off. I'll turn the music down a little bit, just
Yep.
so it's less distracting to me, and I can focus more on like the bars and what I want to say exactly, but put it into a rhyme pattern. You know what I mean? So for me, it just works a little bit better to just kind of step away.
Yeah.
But
Hey.
hey, don't get me wrong, man. When we're in that mode though, because even we've had a couple of occasions where I'm in that mode and I come in the room and I just write out something real quick and
Absolutely.
everybody's like, "Holy shit! Like you pulled that out in the last 5 minutes."
Yeah, no doubt, man. It definitely depends, man. I'm like you, but it just depends on the day, I guess, man. But yeah, if I could do it, I'll sit alone and just write for a little bit. Well, hey, man, you guys make great music together. Any plans to do another song in the future, or just it just comes up
Uh,
when it comes up?
yeah, I think we ain't really planning on it, and when it comes up, it comes up, and we let the universe take it there. You know what I mean? When the
Yeah,
universe brings it together, it works a little better.
yeah, I
So
love it, man. Hey, tell me about the video, man. So you guys shot a dope music video with Evil Side, and what was that process like, and who was the filming, and how did that go down?
Yeah, Josh, right, I believe, shot
Okay.
that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, dope visuals, man. And he, when of course, when you're making the video, you just think about it one pattern. You
Yep.
think, okay, this video is just gonna be us in front of the store the whole time, or it's gonna be us on this location the whole time. But the way he brought it all together at the end with the visuals and the sky shots of Fresno and things like that, tied it in perfectly. But fun fact about that video is the store that we're in front of. I grew up in that area.
Okay.
So that Wicks grew up on that's the east side, and then going to that market for our favorite. I mean, I'd go there all the time for my favorite burrito. Back then, it used to be a $5 burrito, and it'd be like the size of a football. But
Yeah.
they used to do some really good burritos. So of course, it's a landmark for us.
Yeah.
McKinsey, shout out to McKinsey Market. So it was a landmark for us, but most importantly for that video, the house shot where we're shooting in front of that house, that
All
was my
right.
grandma's house before she passed away.
Oh dang.
So
Okay.
it was nostalgic for me to be there in that location, because it was a representation of my upcoming and my
Yeah.
my upbringing and being in that house as a kid. And I mean, that porch area, me and my cousins used to grind that thing. We used to be out there drinking 40s and until the cops come and shit, but because it was such a bad neighborhood that the cops used to always roll through and they'd be
Oh
like,
man.
"Hey, you guys out here drinking? Who's on probation? Who's on parole? Come on, let's run some names." So,
Oh man.
but
Hey, yeah.
it was a nostalgic location for me because again, it was my grandparents' house before they passed. So
Yeah, yeah, it was a great look into what Fresno was all about. And you do something too that Wix does too. Was he mentioned Dickey's playground, which is was important in his childhood, and you do it too. I can't remember if you did it in Fresno's worst, but
yeah, Fresno worst. Yeah,
yeah, how what was the tie to you too? Did you used to hang out at Dickey's playground and
yeah.
he?
Again, if
Oh,
you know Fresno, you know San Pablo and Low Elementary. I grew up on San Pablo as well, and I went to Low
okay,
Elementary, but Low is right down the street from Dickey's playground. Like it
okay,
was a couple blocks up, and I remember after school, we were neighborhood kids. We didn't want to go home right away. Of course, we were trying to go home and do our homework right away. So, like we
yeah,
should have been doing, you know what I mean? But yeah, we would just go straight from school, go to Dickey's playground. They used to have like a little pool table, and
yeah.
Wicks got the good era. He was talking about Nintendo 64 and shit there, and 007. We didn't have none of that. We just had the basketball court, the checkers, Connect Four.
That's
But
so
I think the most important, I think Wicks mentioned it too. The most important part, or the aspect of Dickey's playground was that sack lunch, man. Because
yeah,
coming from a neighborhood where you're a little food deprived, what I mean.
yeah,
Every first and 15 lands on the first and 15, so that's food
yeah,
stamp day, and you got to wait in between that. So
yeah,
if
yeah.
moms and dads didn't really have a lot of money, we'd go to Dickey's playground, get a sack lunch, or mom be like, "You guys need to go outside and play for a little while." Go to Dickey's playground, get a sack lunch, eat my little
Yeah.
sandwich, and then play some Connect Four.
Yeah, hey, that's awesome, man. Community taking care of community, man.
Hey, for
So,
real, for real.
man, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, man, I wanted to just dedicate a few minutes to talk about Fresno's worst, man, and just again, that was what connected me with you. And I thought the beat was just freaking amazing. Who produced that beat?
Mm, I want to say that was a Jake One beat, and I just stole it off the internet, but I could be
Okay,
wrong. But yeah,
it's, no wonder it's dope, man.
yeah. I want to say it might not be, but it might be a Jake One beat. And at that time, I would just, again, if you didn't have a producer that was making beats for you, everybody
Yeah,
was trying to gouge everybody for it. So I just went straight to the internet and I said, all right, I
yeah.
like this beat. This beat's hard, and I'm gonna write to this.
Yeah, and it's part of just the mixtape era, and
Yep.
everybody was jacking for beats, and so I think that's great, man. What a great staple song. Been around the world, and there's no place like home. That's why when I'm back in town, they just open my throne, man, and
Yep.
really great, man. And so yeah, that was cool that Wix put some visuals together with that, man. I hope at some point, man, you go back and do a video to that song. That song is really cool, man.
Yeah, I never really thought about it because I feel like it just kind of aged itself, and it kind of aged perfectly the way it is, and very old
Yeah,
rustic vintage. And leave it the
yeah,
way it is. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But I mean, there may be a time where we have to throw some visuals behind it. Maybe the 20-year anniversary or something. We'll bring it back or something.
that's
That'd be
so
cool.
cool, man.
Yeah, that'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and so good, man. So you had probably had no idea that that song would influence future MCs like MC Wicks, and you just did
Yeah,
that to share
when
the
I when I
story, right?
when I wrote that, I was living in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So I went out there. I have family, so I've always been back and forth from Las Vegas, but I got family out in Las Vegas. And
Hmm?
when I wrote that, I was just homesick. What I mean? I was living out in Las Vegas. I wanted to be back home. So I just started writing about my home and everything that I miss about it, and basically like what is Fresno to be Fresno. So
Oh.
like, like I think it's like jump on the 180 and head out to City Lights. City Lights is a strip club here.
Oh,
So, River Park and all those shots in Fresno, Fashion Fair, that's the mall out here and shit, so it's like I was missing home, you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm gonna write to this beat about my home and everything that it is.
wow.
So yeah, that's
Very
where it all
cool,
came along
man.
from.
Well, hey, thank you for blessing us with that track. Really enjoyed it, and you got a bunch of stuff too online that I really like from back then, back in the day. Soft Spots was really cool, and then you did a song called "From the Cow Towns," which it
Oh
looked
yeah.
like you recorded out in Vegas because you spent time in Vegas, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some funny scenes, man. You want to tell me about some of the footage on that? I saw folks getting
Yeah,
arrested.
yeah, that was a wild night. My brother-in-law, shout out to Mac Mark, my brother-in-law. Again, that my family was living out there, so I just, I went out there to live for a little bit and go check them out. And he's just like, "You want to go to Fremont? Let's go to Fremont." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And he's like, "Let's take the camera." And he's like, "Since you got music, let's just put some visual together for this, this."
Yeah,
So I'm like, all right. So it wasn't really a music video, it was just more
yeah.
like visuals. We're walking around downtown drinking like Bush beer or something. I don't know what it was. Drinking like Bush. And yeah, it was just like, we seemed like a fight. And
Oh.
it was like all kinds of things. Some dude like almost hit me with the door and I had to get at him about it. And it was just like Fresno cats being Fresno in Las Vegas. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was a wild night, but it was still a cool visual to put behind that.
Yeah, great music, man, and I appreciate it. And I'm glad that it's online so that people can enjoy it when they look up Raspy Rob's catalog, man.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, the name from the Cowtowns is like, when you drive into Fresno or when you're driving into Central Valley, you smell the cows, of course. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So
Yep.
that's why, I had to call it from the cow. We're from the Cowtown. You know what I mean? And people would say that too. Be like a bunch of farmers from the Cowtowns and shit.
Hey, super cool, man. And you also got some acting credit to your name. Hey,
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So the Trap House movie. Do you want to talk to me about how that went down and how
Yeah,
you?
that was interesting too, man, because Diego Red is another god amongst the gods here.
Yeah.
And shout out to Diego Red. He was mentioned that he was shooting a movie or they're making a movie. So I was like, hey, I need to get on this. And he was like, oh man, he's like, I got the perfect role for you. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, what do I need? And he basically told me the character, sent me the script, I read it. So I was like, all right. So I came in with the chicken. I was the chicken man essentially. So I came in with the chicken, big old butcher knife with me, two big ass bodyguards, and like,
Oh, I gotta watch the movie, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta watch it. It's a very funny movie, and right now Diego Red is writing part two of that,
Oh
in which I'm
wow.
hoping to make another cameo back in the movie, coming back to collect my money. So I
Oh,
submitted some writing to him that I think would be good for the script. I made a little script writing about the character and just kind of
oh,
throwing some
very
stuff in
cool.
there. So
Yeah.
hopefully we get that worked out and get some stuff together for the part two of that.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you after this call, man, on where I can access the movie, man. I'd love to watch it. It sounds very
Oh
entertaining.
yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
very cool. Well, hey, man, good, man. I hope part two comes out. And so, hey, before I close up the part on music, man, do you like writing with a beat or without? Sounds like you like to write with a beat, but you,
Yeah, I like to write with a beat. Yeah.
okay,
Because then I can feel that drop when it comes in, or I can feel that punch when it punches through, and yeah, the beats are important for me.
very cool, man. Well, hey, I mentioned at the beginning of this interview that you're an established chef. I've seen coverage of you in magazines and the news, just all over online, man. And you recently did a cook off a couple months ago, the Casa Cook Off, which was super cool, man. So, hey, how did you get into that career? And when did your love for cooking go down?
So I'm a third generation chef. My father and of course my grandfather are chefs. Um, my father influenced me, of course, to be a chef, but I didn't want to be a chef growing up. Growing up, I wanted to be a sound engineer. I wanted to create scores for movies and things like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was kind of what drove me out to Vegas. Was I wanted to, well, of course, my family, but I wanted to pursue a career in music, and not just music, but like sound engineering. And my sister's boyfriend was working at the Palms, which is in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Hey man, like you can't be sitting around here with no job. Like I know you're trying to go to school, but like you need to get on your toes and get a job out here."
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, "All right." And he's like, "Hey, you know what? Come with me to work. I think we have a position in the dish area, maybe a prep cook. We'll get you in." So of course I went and did the whole application thing and test and the whole thing, and went and got the job. So I got a job. So I started as a dishwasher, just washing dishes. And one day they were like, we're short of prep cook. Do you want to learn how to prep cook or cut vegetables, things like that? So I was like, yeah, I'm willing to learn. So of course they gave me a knife and a cutting board. And first day on the job, I just whacked my finger and cut my finger.
Oh shit. Okay.
But it was part of the learning curve, you know what
That's
I mean?
right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
learn how to hold a knife better. So yeah, and after that, I didn't want to leave after that. After I got like the taste of it, it was
Yeah.
like established in my blood. I mean, of course, watching my father as a chef and growing up around the industry and growing around the aspect of it, I just didn't want to leave. So I just said, all that music stuff is out the window now. I want to
Yeah.
focus on being this chef right here. I want to do this. So that's where it took me, and I just kept my head down and kept growing with it and growing, and here I
Yeah.
am today.
Yeah. And I've seen that you can cook on all type of food or type of cuisine that you like to fix.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all over it. I mean, I love to fix any kind of cuisine, but I'm mostly into Thai food. I love the
Oh.
aspect of Thai food. Yeah, because it's just like sweet, tangy, spicy, sour. It's all over your palate when you bite into a certain Thai dishes, of course, but Thai food is where I like to be at.
Oh man, that's super cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, and do you are you in Fresno right now? Is that where you operate out of, or do you operate outside of Fresno for your chef work?
Oh yeah, I'm in Fresno. Yep.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool, man. Well, then, yeah, I thought that was just interesting. And so, did that like in terms of like creativity? Just, I mean, you explored with music, and so just that curiosity in terms of like trying to create things. Where did that come from? And just trying to make your own stuff and cook, man.
Yeah,
Was that?
it's definitely an art. You know what I mean? It's an art,
Yeah,
um, color, concept, aspect all together,
yeah,
texture. It's all in one shot there. So, and it's a lot like music. Music has color to it. Once you get that beat pattern down, and once you get that vocal down, then you get the ad libs down. It's all layered, colored. It's a lot like food. Layered, colored,
yeah.
texture.
Presentation too, man. I see.
Presentation. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
wow, just really, really impressed, man. So,
And then, most importantly, bringing it together for my city. So, like when I do the Casa cook-offs, that's not for me. That's for Casa, who's a nonprofit organization that represents foster youth.
oh wow,
And for a little while in my life, I lived in a foster home, so it connects well with me. You know what I mean? So it's like
yeah,
anytime I can put on for my city, anytime I can put on for other chefs. I mean, you don't even have to be a chef to come to our event. You can just love food and
yeah.
love being around people and love the atmosphere. And that's what I wanted to put on for, you know what I mean? So I put it all together.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. Yeah, man, hey, you're a man of just many skills, man. And
I
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah, it was fun just talking about all that. And so now we're moving to the portion, just the fun part of the interview, where I ask you some fun questions, man, to close out this amazing interview, man. All right, Raspy Rob, man, what is let's see what kind of humor he got. What is your favorite comedy movie of all time?
Damn. Um, yeah, all time is a hard one, but I do like the movie Life with
Okay,
Eddie
yeah,
Murphy.
Mark
That shit is
Henry.
hilarious.
That was really good. Good.
Actually, we were just talking about comedies the other day. Me and my wife were talking about comedies the other day, and I think like Grandma's Boys
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
freaking
that was good.
classic. We watched Ted the other day, Ted and Ted 2.
Yeah,
Like those shits are classics. Like,
yes.
yeah, those are definitely my favorite comedies, man.
All right, man, that's good. Good palate. Hey, if Rob was an animal, what kind of animal would he be?
I'm from California, man, so I'm a grizzly bear. You know what I
That's
mean?
right, dude. All right. If you could have any superhero power, what would it be and why?
Damn. Damn. All right. If I had a superpower, it's gonna be able to bring people back from death, so I can catch up
Oh,
with all my homies, man. I'm trying to catch up
oh,
with all my people.
hey, hey, that's a good one. That's a unique one.
Come back from death, man. Bringing you back,
I like it.
installing life back into your body.
Hey, that's a unique one. Hey, if you could have dinner with any two people in history, dead or alive, who would it be?
Damn. Oh, damn. That's a good one too. All right. So dead or alive? Well, my favorite chef is Marco Pierre White. Look him up if you don't know who he is. So of course he's got to be there because
All
that's
right.
Marco Pierre. And because I love West Coast music and Tupac is the West Coast king, you know what I mean? So I gotta bring Pac to this, man. Me, Pac, and Marco Pierre White just sitting in a circle drinking cocktails.
Very good choices, man. Oh man, that's a good one. Hey, so with that, man, I gotta ask the chef, what is the chef's favorite food?
Damn, that's a good one too. I mean, I'm a very simple chef. I love good food and I love making good food, but when it comes
Yeah.
down to it, just give me a cheeseburger or a slice of pizza and we're good, man. Shout out to Sam's Pizza on the east side. You get me a pizza, we're good, man. We're good all the way.
Fresno's best, man. Well, hey, man. Well, with that, hey, thank you, man. It was an honor to talk to you about your music again. Just great, great storytelling and all the songs that I've heard. Fresno's Worst, a classic if you haven't heard it. You're a businessman, a chef, a family man. You're a community activist, man. I love everything that you're all about, and I continue to follow you after this. And I look forward to whatever you do, man. Very exciting. So thank you for the opportunity to talk, and I'm really excited to put this session out. Any final words before we close this interview out?
Shout out to Guillotine. He's my producer right now. We're working on an album called the Sleeping Giant, and
Oh, dang! Yeah,
that's an exclusive for you guys. Don't tell nobody. But
yeah.
yeah, shout out to Guillotine. We're working on an album right now called The Sleeping Giant. I got some hitters on there. It's gonna be a major creative album, and this is gonna be my sunset album. So I'm sunsetting after this. After this album, Chef Rob is gonna be in the building, but Raspy Rob is gonna be sunsetted and on his way back to heaven, baby. You know what I mean? But shout out to all the Fresno City. Shout out to my family, the Ortiz family. Shout out to my wife, my daughter, my son, my sisters, my guy Market, Chef Rob Vieira, everybody in Fresno, my cousin Loso, because that's my boy and my best friend. And of course, shout out to my guy here, man, for letting me do this. And of course, having me on the podcast, man. That's much love, dude. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother, man. Thank you. And whoa, that's big news, man. I look forward to checking that album out, man. So
Yeah,
thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, man, and we'll stay in touch, brother.
absolutely. Appreciate it, my brother. It's
Okay.
love. It's love.